Hi, I'm Adam Greentree, and I've got a new audio series called In Pursuit, where I take you through many of my adventures. The series includes soundscapes, so it really immerses you into my shoes. You'll feel like you're right there with me as I tell the story. It's available now on iTunes and Spotify. Before we go any further, I want to thank our sponsors, Manscaped, for making In Pursuit possible. And to all my Aussie listeners, good news. Manscaped has just launched here in Australia and it's available to you now. We've all had nicks in our time, and let's just say this is not something I'd wish upon my worst enemies. When I tell you it's premium, I mean it's premium. Their new features include 90 minutes battery life, a really cool LED light to get in and have a closer shave. For all of you watching, I want you to experience this for yourself. So right now, Manscaped is giving 20% off and free shipping when you use the code Greentree. Trim that junk of yours. Get 20% off and free shipping by using the code Greentree at manscaped.com, and your balls will thank you later. On this episode of In Pursuit, I head to New Zealand, where I have an absolute cliffhanger of an experience. It felt like a really bad movie because that's just how wrong things kept going for me. So hiked right into the Alps, and beautiful weather pretty much the whole time of the trip. And you're carrying everything on your back. So, you've probably got 25 to 30 kilos of weight in your backpack at any time. I'd been camping up the top of the glacier, and it was successful. I'd harvested an animal, I had meat and a skin and everything like that. And I knew that I couldn't go back the way that I'd come up the mountain because it was just already hellish, and I thought there's got to be a better option than that. So I find myself actually hiking over the far side of the Alps, where the map had showed a much more gradual contour down to the bottom, basically down to the river. So I found the only way that I could go to that more gradual contour down was to actually jump onto a section that I knew that I wouldn't be able to get back up from. And it took a lot of guts to just get to that point where I was just like, okay, I'm doing this, and jumped off onto that section. But that map couldn't have been more wrong, so whether there'd been a bad landslip a few years ago, which is what it looked like had happened, but it definitely wasn't a more gradual, contour down. It was very abrupt and steep. I still thought it was doable, but what I didn't know was there was snow on top of blue ice, so like frozen solid ground, basically a glacier. And as I was walking, my crampons, so the spikes on my boot that helped me grip into the ice and snow, those crampons were filling up with soft snow, so the spikes actually weren't touching onto the ice, and I just kept slipping. And eventually it got to the point that I'd lost so much traction and I was so far down the mountain that the only way was to go directly down where I was. I couldn't go back up. I guess it crossed my mind at that point as well to try and phone in a helicopter, but maybe I was too proud. I still thought it was achievable, I guess. And it actually didn't get better. It got worse and worse, and eventually I found myself just on the side of this basically frozen cliff face with an ice axe jammed into the ground, and it was pretty much holding all my weight. The sling on the ice axe was holding all my weight. I'd accidentally kicked the crampon off, just frantically trying to get better grip into the mountain, and that crampon came off my boot, and that left me in a really bad situation. I don't even recall how long I was hanging there for now, because it seemed like a long time, but your brain's just working overtime to try and work out the situation. How do you survive this? How do I live this? How do I get back and see my wife and kids? Is this the end? Before we continue, it's time to introduce our good friends at Surfshark VPN, who have been gracious enough to sponsor this episode of In Pursuit. Being an avid adventurer like myself, traveling around the world leads to having to consistently connect to various public Wi-Fis. But now with Surfshark VPN, you're protected from any cyber hacking that commonly occurs when doing so. Our good mates at Surfshark VPN have done us all a huge favor and are offering a massive 83% off plus 3 extra months free using the code INPURSUIT at checkout. They are also offering 30 days money back guarantee, so there's absolutely no risk at all. By downloading Surfshark now with the code INPURSUIT, You are supporting me and you're going to allow us to bring you more episodes each week. Thanks, Surf Shark. Now back to the episode. The way I explain it to a lot of people is someone puts a gun to your head and they're like, put this puzzle together or I'm shooting you. And so you're just busy trying to put the puzzle together. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to work out what I had to do to get off that mountain. And yeah, it got pretty technical and I came up with a few ideas in a split second and I ended up getting some stability and a grip. I ended up getting that crampon back on and I had to make a couple of risky jumps from ledge to ledge. I'd let my whole backpack go with my backpack's got everything in it. It's got all your safety gear, like camera gear, hunting gear, warm clothes, sleeping bag, tent, like everything you really need to survive on the mountain. In those harsh conditions, that backpack had it and I literally had to take it off and let it just fall down the mountain because I just couldn't carry the weight anymore. It was just too much on this wrist. Anyway, I pieced it together and I climbed down there and every time I thought that the misery was over for that day, it wasn't over at all. It just something else would come up, another cliff in front of me, another rock slide, a raging river, to get out of there. And I end up finishing the day in the dark, soaking wet from head to toe, freezing cold. Pretty much everything I had was damaged and destroyed, but I walked out of there and now I'm here telling you the story. So make sure you tune into this episode. I go into much greater depth than I've just told you now. And I talk about all the before, all the during and all the after on that trip. The soundscape really adds to it where you'll feel like you're in my position. As horrible as it was, you'll feel like you're exactly where I was. Get on to iTunes or Spotify and listen to the episode.